Good morning. It is Wednesday morning at 5:30, and I did not get an opportunity to vlog on the way home yesterday. I was run off the interstate by a semi. Apparently, he thought I was going to get off on the exit, and I was simply in the right-hand lane because I was driving slower than regular traffic, and yeah, he almost smushed me. I was almost smushed. A lot of um, heart checks there, to say the least. I'm glad that my heart's healthy, because if not, I would have absolutely had a heart attack. I was on the phone with my best friend at the time, so yeah, so that happened. And then I came in this morning. I have just a few minutes before everybody else gets here, and just wanted to say good morning. And so yesterday I had talked about starting a series about nursing issues and things going on in the nursing field. Well, that turned out rather weird today. Whatever. I don't care what I look like today. I don't care what I look like any day, apparently. Yesterday I had done some research about some of the things that are causing, I don't know why I'm saying so much, because I watch YouTubers who do that, or they say, if that makes sense. Well, if it didn't make sense, then why would you be vlogging about it? But anyway, I did some research and talked to a few of my coworkers, and one of the biggest things that is causing nurse burnout at this point in time in our careers or in the field of nursing is understaffing. I came in this morning. I actually came in at 5:15, and one of the things that I noticed when I was walking in is that there was one nurse on each floor. Now, let me cover something that I hear all the time. A lot of the time when nurses are talking about a nursing shortage, a staffing shortage, they are expressing the concerns and the it's not hostility, but it's angst, it's anger, it's concern, because you can have one nurse on a floor with 70 or 80 people at some facilities. At the facility where I work, on one floor we have 53 that may be under the care of one nurse, and another floor we have 42 or 43, and on the other floor there's, I want to say, 45. That is entirely too many people for one person to be responsible for. Now, I work in the geriatric field, so I'm in a long-term facility, commonly called a nursing home. A lot of the problem that I have noticed with the general population, when I was a night nurse, I would talk about how we were understaffed. And they always would say, well, all they do is sleep all night, so how is that a problem? Let me be very clear. The people who live here do not sleep all night. Dementia, sundowners, Alzheimer's disease, clinical issues, broken hips, hip replacements, things like that that cause pain, that keep people up at night, insomnia, psych issues, things like that. When you don't understand the whole picture, you cannot make broad statements like all they do is sleep all night. I wouldn't say most, I would say a good majority of your patients at night will sleep. They are on a medication or multiple medications to help them to get enough rest in the evening. But then, I still have that spot right there. You have the other patients who are up and down all night, your high fall risk, the demented patients who their days and nights flip around. And so they are up, they are attempting to walk when they can no longer walk. They want to eat at all hours of the night because they don't remember having meals at the appropriate times during the day and the evening, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks in between, stuff like that. They don't have that memory doing that. And so they're constantly hungry, and their brain doesn't tell them that they're not hungry, even if they've just eaten. I have one patient who I took care of for about 2 years, and she would literally wake up every 2 hours and think it was time for breakfast. And we would give her a little snack, and she would lay back down, and then 2 hours, 2.5 hours later, she was back up again. So the general statement that these people just sleep all night, it angers me, because I've been that floor nurse trying to deal with 40 plus people, and you've got 10 or 15 of them that are awake all night that have different issues. So that's a little, almost a little rant that I wanted to share. They don't sleep all night, and they need constant care throughout the night. So when you have one nurse who is in charge of, just say, 40 people, if you look at your average statistics in a hospital setting, you have 6 to 8 patients. And your care load is the same as a long-term facility. Because in a long-term facility, yes, we have care aides, nursing techs, nursing aides, certified nursing aides, whatever their title is at the facility that you're working at. And they do the majority of the care. However, we have wound care that has to be done. Some of it is very in-depth and can take 45 minutes to do one person's wound dressing, wound changes, the dressing changes on a wound. Just sat there and kind of rambled around that one, and it was so easy to just say the changes of the dressing for the wound. You have ones who are fed by a G-tube, and you have to go in and do, it's not, you just don't go in and dump it in. It's not that simple. If they have medications, they have to be given in certain, there's steps to do it. So a 12-hour shift for a night nurse is usually 8 to 9 hours of on-the-floor direct care. Then you have to chart on everybody. We are in a paper facility here. We are not on electronic EMR, ETAR, charting any of it. The nurses can't even chart electronically, so it's all handwritten. So that takes up a good majority. Then you have all of your actual checks and balances, your refrigerator checks and your glucometer checks, and making sure that all of your supplies are stocked and that your cart is stocked, like going through and auditing your cart for your insulin dates and things like that. So it's not like you just come in at 7 o'clock at night and you pass meds for an hour and then you move on and you sit at the desk all night. Now, I'm sure in some instances that is what can or has happened. It does not happen for the majority. So when you have one nurse who is in charge of that many patients, and maybe they have 2 techs to help them, that nurse is then doing contact care, meaning if the patient is incontinent, they're going in and changing them. If they have 1 or 2 techs and one tech is doing work on one person, then that nurse is probably going to have to get up and go help that other tech for somebody who needs 2 people to assist them. So every once in a while, it just happens. When it is your consistent pattern for your staffing, for your nurses, that's one of the causes for nurse burnout, because you begin to almost become robotic in what you do, and you don't have the same passion and compassion that you do when you first get started, and you're not as aware because you're sitting there giving grandma her medication and thinking 3 doors down, I need to do this tube feeding and I have to do this dressing change. And so your mind is constantly reeling. And when you do that multiple times, and then that becomes your normal for your facility, you're wearing your nurses out. You're compromising your patient safety. You are asking that nurse to put her license on the line, because that is when errors begin. When you have a nurse who has worked 5 hours, or 5 shifts in a row, where after a certain amount of time she's the only nurse on the floor and doesn't have enough understaff, her techs and whatever they're called wherever you're at. Here they're called nurse aides. When there's not enough people in the building to do all the jobs that need to be done, and yet the jobs are still expected to be done, that is one of the factors for nurse burnout, because you as one person cannot take care of 40 people the way that they adequately need to be taken care of and not make a mistake. You can't. You can't do it consistently. I am one of those nurses that I am jump in both feet, don't hold my nose, jump in the deep end of the pool. There are many nurses like that that I have worked with, and each one of them have said their biggest complaint, their biggest problem, their biggest issue with nursing is when there are not enough nurses in a facility at one time to cover the patient needs. So there's no quick resolution to that. There's a nursing shortage, and unfortunately, because of the nursing shortage, it is very easy for a nurse to go into a facility, and I've seen this with a lot of new nurses. So a nurse will go into a nursing facility and everything is staffed up really well, and it could be the first month, everything looks absolutely wonderful. You have enough staff, you have adequate supplies, everything looks good. And then as the new wears off and you start to realize that you are in charge of a lot more than what you thought you were going to be, a lot of nurses will quit. Well, that's twofold, okay? First of all, there's a nursing shortage, so a nurse can basically quit any job at any point in time and pick up another one very, very quickly. When a nurse gets overwhelmed, overworked, or burnt out at a facility and they quit and they move to a different facility, you then still have that facility who was already short and is now shorter than what they were, causing more burnout for more nurses in that facility. And I don't care who you are, you can only do it for so long. I feel like I am a more than able nurse. I feel like I am more than adequate. Hold on. One of the residents is sitting outside my door. I am more than capable of taking care of a larger workload than most nurses, just because that's me. I thrive on stuff like that. I can do 3 or 4 days of a heavier workload and I'm done. So when we have these nurses who are doing it for 7 or 8 days in a row, my heart goes out to them. It really goes out to them. And there's no quick fix for that, because first of all, we have to get more nurses into the nursing field, and we have to utilize the nurses that we have appropriately. You have some LPNs who, under their scope of practice, cannot do things that RNs can do and need that RN to be there for certain things, and yet they haven't changed the laws where an LPN can challenge the RN courses based off of work experience, proven work experience, and be able to CLEP out and take the NCLEX for the RN. That's something that I'm passionate about. There on my Facebook page, I have a petition that I have asked everyone to sign. I have passed that around. We're about 450 signatures away from being able to present that. Your education and your work experience sometimes won't always match. My work experience, I have been thrown into the depths of hell and told, you're it, make it work, and been forced almost to work outside of my scope to a certain degree, because there was no one else to do it. There was no one else. And so those are some issues that we're also going to continue talking about, and I'll share with you some of the petition bullets that we're trying to get presented so that LPNs can challenge the RN NCLEX, and based off work experience, like I said, be able to take that NCLEX for the RN position, the RN titling. I think once we get the field saturated with nurses who are there for the correct reasons, some of these things will wane off automatically, because you'll have nurses who are passionate about taking care of people, coming in and doing what God intended for them to do. And that'll weed out the ones who are just there thinking, oh, nurses make good money. Let me tell you, nurses do not make good money. Nurses do not make the type of money that people automatically assume, just like you assume that, not you, people assume that our patients sleep all night. They also assume that we make all this money, and it's just not true. Graduate LPNs coming out of school in my area make around $13. There's managers at stores in the mall making $14.50 who've been at their work for like two years. There's graduate RNs coming out who make $19 an hour. I became an LPN and walked into my first job making $20 an hour. I'm a bird of a different feather, so my criteria and my standards for myself are higher, and I won't settle because I know what I'm worth. So you have nurses coming into the field not for the right reason, not making the money that they anticipated making, being handed these extremely heavy workloads, and not having support from either other staff, because in the nursing world it is nurse eat nurse. It's very catty, very cliquey. So you have all these things that create all of this ball of turmoil, and creates a higher nursing shortage, and it creates nurse burnout. So 16 and a half, almost 17 minutes worth of just that little bit for you guys to think about. So kind of mull that over, do a little bit of research, make some comments below. Let me know how you feel about nurse burnout, what some of the factors are that you feel would cause a nurse to get burnout and not continue in the field that she was once passionate about. And let me know what you think. If you guys start on the comments, be kind to each other in the comments. That's all I ask. If you don't agree with my video, that's fine. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, and we will cover some more tomorrow. So you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. Peace and palm love.